A lot of things can throw a wrench in our finances, such as an unexpected expense, losing income, and higher costs. But these aren't the only things. And for a lot of people, shopping is a big problem. But acknowledging this as an issue is only the first step. You also have to change the behavior. And this often involves shopping less. So today we're looking at a few signs that you shouldn't buy something, which can hopefully help you pause and think about a purchase before whipping out your card or cash. But before we start, do me a favor and hit the like button. That will help other people discover me. And also subscribe if you like personal finance and you want to see more videos like this. So the first sign that you shouldn't buy something is that you've been shopping for hours and you're frustrated. This is a feeling I know all too well because sometimes it takes me forever to find exactly what I'm looking for, and I don't know if I'm too picky or what it is, but it's rare for something to immediately grab my attention. And this isn't a big problem when I'm casually browsing, but if I'm on the hunt for something specific, it does get frustrating when nothing catches my eye. And if I'm tired and just over the process, sometimes I will settle and just buy anything because I'm ready to go. But this almost always backfires because if I'm not crazy about an item from the start, I'll either regret the purchase or I'll barely use it. So now I make it a point to only buy things that I really like. And regardless of how long I've been looking, if I'm not excited about something, I will usually keep looking if possible, because when it's all said and done, I usually end up spending more by settling. Because once I find what I'm actually looking for, I usually end up buying that too. Another sign is that you're seeking validation. And if you don't know what this means or how it relates to shopping, this involves buying something in order to establish your own worthiness or to prove something to others. Or you might try to prove something to yourself, which is not healthy either, because this can start a pattern of thinking that you need to wear certain brands or own certain things in order to feel good about yourself. But that's not the only way you might seek validation. Sometimes it can also be subtle, so subtle that you don't even recognize it until later on when you look back on a situation. And I experienced this years ago when I was shopping for a formal dress for an event. I went to this boutique store and they had a lot of nice things. So I was in there for a while, kind of looking at the items and browsing. And given the length of time that I was in the store and the fact that there were a lot of salespeople working that day, there was more than enough time for someone to speak to me, yet no one ever acknowledged me. From the time I walked into that store, I did not get a hello, welcome to our store, no information about sales, no can I get you a dressing room, nothing. Yet they were super chatty with a lot of the other customers who were dressed a little bit more nicer and looked a little bit more polished than I did at the time. And I should have just walked out, but it did make me feel a certain way, like, okay, who do they think they are? I can afford to shop here too. And I bought something just to prove that point, which was so dumb. I mean, looking back, it's like, okay, why? Why did I do that? Because at the end of the day, the only person who came out a loser in that situation was me. But you get older and you get wiser, and eventually you realize that you don't have anything to prove to anybody. But on the flip side of that, you also don't want to buy something if you're feeling pressured. I worked a commission retail job a little bit after high school, so I know firsthand that not all salespeople are pushy. So if you're not sure about an item or if you don't want to buy something, a lot of them will back off and not pressure you. But you also have some salespeople who can be on the pushy side, and they might tell you whatever you want to hear to get your money. So it's important to acknowledge this possibility and listen to your gut when you're shopping and try to block out any chatter that encourages you to buy something. And this pressure doesn't only come from salespeople. If you go shopping with a friend or a relative, they might also try and persuade you to buy things that you technically can't afford or things that you're just not completely sure about. So when in doubt, don't buy it because you might end up regretting it. Also, ask yourself, if no one saw this item, would I still buy it? And I've mentioned this question before on a previous video, but it also fits perfectly here. And I really like this question because it forces you to really think about the intent behind a purchase. Some people fall into the trap of trying to impress others. So if they admire people who wear expensive clothes or certain brands, or who drive certain types of cars, they might attempt to imitate their style and buy things for appearances. And this kind of relates to getting validation, but at the end of the day, only you know your thought process. So seriously consider whether impressing others influences your buying decisions. Also, it doesn't matter how pretty or stylish an item is. If it's uncomfortable, It'll probably be a bad purchase and you might end up wasting money. I've made this mistake so many times with shoes, and a lot of times I'll be in the store trying them on, walking around, and I'll notice pretty quickly that they're not that comfortable. But if I like the style, sometimes I will justify it by saying that, I just need to break them in, and they'll be okay. And you can break them in, but I know personally for me, more times than not, I would always end up wearing those shoes only a few times because they were just too painful. Another sign is that you're mad about something. When stressed, angry, or sad, shopping can make us feel better. This has been proven because the shopping experience, or even anticipating shopping, can often trigger the release of dopamine, which is a hormone that makes us feel pleasure. So for that moment, all our troubles might seem to go away, but they really haven't, and we're only masking how we truly feel. And some people might justify this by saying that, it's not a big deal if I buy a little something to lift my spirits. But the problem is that a lot of people, they can't just buy a little something. They like the feeling that comes from the shopping experience. So if they're going through a stressful period, naturally they want the happiness and the pleasure to continue. And for some people, this can lead to compulsive shopping. So shopping when you're upset is a habit that you really don't want to start, because not only is it hard to break, it can also get out of control pretty quickly. So another sign is that you're counting on future money to pay for something, and we can also add using a credit card and you can't pay it off in full. Using future money to pay for something is a mistake that a lot of people make, primarily because we can't predict the future. And as we know, life can throw unexpected curveballs. And to give you an example, let's say you're expecting a $500 bonus from work next month. Even though you haven't received the money yet, you might decide to go shopping this month and then use the future money to either pay off your credit card or reimburse your bank account. But in between that time, something happens unexpectedly, such as a big car repair. So now the $500 you planned to reimburse yourself with, you now have to use it for the repair, which leaves you in the hole. And I'm speaking 100% from experience, because in my younger days, I would always go shopping with future money. And even when I had a solid plan in place to pay back myself or to pay back a credit card, something would happen that would completely throw me off. And the final sign that you shouldn't buy something is that you haven't reviewed your budget. If you create your budget or your spending plan at the beginning of the month, it is so important that you review it throughout the month to make sure you're going in the right direction. Along with budgeting for needs, you also need to budget for wants. But because it's so easy to overspend in your wants category, you also need to keep track of your purchases to make sure you're not overspending in an area. So if you're in a store and you see something you want, but you haven't checked your account and you don't know how much leeway you have, don't make the purchase, at least not yet. Instead, give yourself some time to review the numbers and make sure you can actually afford the item before you buy it. So that's all that I have for you guys today. Thank you for watching this video. I really hope that you enjoyed it. And if you did, please give me a thumbs up. Hopefully you can use some of these tips on your next shopping trip. Thank you again for watching this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and share, and I'll see you in a few days.